Well, I am so excited that you came to see me today. I am just really excited. I'm Charlotte Wood, and I was born in 1864. And I have two brothers and one sister, and I grew up on the Wood Ranch. My father was a rancher and a farmer, and he was an expert. And when I got old enough, I went to the Sycamore School, and I was there until eighth grade, and then I left. And later on, I went to San Francisco and I got more education and I became a teacher. And I taught at the Sycamore School for 31 years. For 31 years, I was in one room with 8 grades. I taught 8 grades in one room. And many people said, "How did you do that?" Well, the day before, I would write the assignments on the board, usually a chapter in the McGuffey Reader, and then I would put math problems on the board and other assignments, and I would start off working with the younger children, the first graders and second graders, who did not know how to read or write. And so I would start off with them. And then usually later in the day, I would have the older kids work with some of the younger kids. Now, there were rules for teachers in those days. You couldn't be married. But of course, I could have been married. We had a young man, Thomas, who came over from England who wanted to be a rancher. And who was the best person to teach him? My dad. So he stayed with us for a couple of months. One night, Thomas and I were in the parlor, and Thomas said to me, he said, "Miss Charlotte," he said, "I've become very fond of you, and I would like to marry you and have you come back to England and help me start the ranch." And I said, "Oh, Thomas," I said, "I am so flattered, but I can't leave my family. I can't leave my students. I can't leave my ranch." So Thomas, of course, went back to England, and we heard from him, and he did start a ranch. And there were other, some people felt sorry for me because I didn't have any children. I had hundreds of children. My brothers used to drive me into Danville to go shopping, and I would hear, "Miss Lottie, Miss Lottie." That's what the children used to call me. And so they would run up to me and hug me, and I would hug them. You realize I had some of those children for 8 years. I had them for 8 years, so I grew very fond of those children. And another rule is you could not be seen, a single teacher could not be seen in a bathing costume. Well, for crying out loud, there was not an ocean close by, so I didn't even need to have a bathing costume, and I probably didn't even know how to swim. Then there was another rule that you could not be seen with a man who was not your father or your brother. Well, I was lucky because I had two brothers and a father. And so if I needed to go somewhere, I could go with one of them. And they would often take me into Danville to shop. My father was the best rancher and farmer. And so he started a club called the Grange. And that's where farmers and ranchers would come together and they would help each other. And I could join. And I joined at 17 years old. Now, I couldn't vote until 1920, but I could join the Grange. Women could join the Grange. And I became the poet laureate. And I'm going to read you one of my poems because I was good. It's called Tiny Butterflies. We are tiny butterflies, bowing gracefully to you. We fly from flower to flower, all sparkling fresh with dew. Soon in the ruddy sunlight, we flutter here and there, then softly sink to slumber and say our evening prayer. In the morning we awaken at the tender kiss of day to dance among the sunbeams and hide and seek to play. Before we nestle gently within some tempting bloom to sip its luscious nectar and inhale its rich perfume. The Sycamore School closed in 1927. There were only a few students there, and the parents felt they would get a better education if they went into Danville and had separate classes for each grade. And after the school closed, a family moved in and it became a family home. But in 1945, it burned down. And I can't tell you, I cried for weeks over that. A place where I had spent 31 years, and it burned down. In 1940, I got a call from the San Ramon Unified School District, and they said, "Miss Wood, we're going to name a school after you." I said, "What?" He said, "We're going to name a school after you. It's going to be called the Charlotte Wood Middle School." Oh my gosh. And so in a few weeks later, they called me up and they said, "You have to come over and cut the ribbon." So I went over there and I cut the ribbon. And I'm telling you, I was so proud. I am so proud to have a school named after me. I died in 1961, and I was 97 years old. I had the best life. I had a wonderful family. I loved my ranch. I loved my teaching. To have a school named after you, what could be better than that?